Welcome to another edition of the Manual. He is the professor, Alton Woods. I'm Chip Rice, and man, did you see?
Rihanna pregnant, pass interference. Which one you want to talk about today?
Oh, we just got out of Super Bowl
Yeah,
weekend. Really exciting
very good
game,
game.
and I have to state for the record that I believe Philly was not only going to win, I believe that they were going to win by nine, possibly double digits. I was
Yeah,
like, because just from a defensive standpoint, I felt like they could put pressure on Mahomes because
I did
they've been
too.
doing it all year.
I did too. I had them as double digit wins in my mind.
Yeah,
I was wrong.
yeah. So was I
I
very wrong.
apologize, Mr. Patrick Mahomes. Mr. Sir Patrick
I don't know
Mahomes.
what they gave that man at halftime. But that man, he came out, and then what? Once again, I'm learning stuff. He had a 27-yard run. They said that's the longest run by a quarterback in Super Bowl
It's
history.
crazy. And he was pulling away on one leg.
Right, on one leg, and he had less than 200 yards passing,
Mm-hmm.
and they win the game.
Right.
But Patrick Mahomes, clutch.
Clutch.
Oh, he is clutch.
And for me, I had the Eagles because I'm like, their defense was historic almost
Yeah,
in terms of how good they were.
right.
I just pulled this up. They had 78 total sacks this season going into the game.
And I think they had, was it 3 people with double-digit sacks?
Something like that, yeah. They were 3 sacks away from surpassing the 1985 Chicago Bears.
Wow.
To put that in context.
Wow. And so some of you youngins, you need to go back and look at some of those clips of the Bears.
The 85 Bears.
The 85 Bears defense. They were the defense and the offense.
Right. And check out Mike Singletary if you really want to pay attention to a linebacker. But, so I'm thinking Kansas City, which through Mahomes' tenure has never boasted one of the best O-lines in football.
Right.
Like they've gotten the job done, but they've never been just manhandle you O-line.
Right.
So certainly Philly's going to come in
Right.
and put pressure on a man with a bad ankle.
Right.
How many sacks?
0.
They
had no. And I'm saying, surely defensive coordinator, you would have adjusted something. It's time to blitz. It's time to do something. But yet they let that man, a little pass here, a little pass there.
Long run here, long run.
Yeah, right. It's like, wow. So, I don't think that the call at the end of the game, there's a lot of people stewing about that, but I'm like, it's a call. Could it have not been called? Yes. By the letter of the law, was it a foul? Yes. So it is
I'll
what
do you
it
one
is.
bet on the call. Go find James Bradbury. He was the cornerback.
He said it.
He said, I thought they might let it slide.
It's nothing.
When the guy who did it says it was a penalty, it's time to let it go.
Right, let it go.
Let it go.
Yeah, but it was an amazing
game.
Amazing game. So shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Absolutely.
And although I was rooting for Javon Hargrave from Salisbury, I wanted to see him get a Super Bowl championship. I am glad that the Eagles don't have another one because I'm a Giants fan. It's another edition of the Manual. So a lot been going on over this past week. We had the Super Bowl happen, had some things happen at the Grammys, just a lot of stuff. And so music is a universal thing that is it is major.
It is.
There's music in heaven.
Yes.
And so music is an amazing thing. And we got a lot of gifted artists out there who have incredible talents. Me being a believer does not keep me from listening to music from all kinds of genre.
Absolutely.
Because there's just some amazing artists out
right.
there. And what I know is that just because you're not saved or don't believe in God does not mean you're not gifted.
Correct.
I think
gifts come without repentance.
right. And as a matter of fact, before we got saved, we had gifts that
Absolutely.
we were operating in.
Absolutely.
We just came into the knowledge of the truth and decided that I want my gift. I now see the purpose for all of it
Absolutely.
that I can
Absolutely.
serve. So it's interesting because a lot of debate comes out, especially in Christendom,
Mhm.
when you have artists that do some things that don't align with the faith.
Right.
And I think what's even more interesting is when they do things to subtly attack the faith.
Correct. Correct.
You know, I'm of the idea that if you're gifted, you're a musician, you're not saved, you don't believe in God or anything else,
Mhm.
just keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
What reason do you have to bring God, Christianity, the Bible into what you're doing if it's something that you don't believe?
Right. Well, I agree, but
Mhm.
to me, there comes a point where it borders on disrespect.
Right.
Right. So I can't, to your point, I can't hold an unbeliever to the standard of a believer.
Absolutely.
No disagreement there.
Absolutely.
What I can say though is just like artists are respectful of certain things,
Mhm.
because I'll be honest with you, I'm just gonna keep it all the way real.
Mhm.
We got artists out there who love, they wear Jesus pieces and throw all kind of Christian related euphemisms into their song, and they feel comfortable doing it. I don't see anybody doing that to Islam.
Nobody. No,
Right. I don't see
I've
anybody making songs disrespecting Islam.
I've yet to hear one.
Right. I'm sure there's probably one in the world somewhere, but I think what we can all agree, even if you find the one, is that it is much more frequent when it comes to Christian beliefs than some of the others.
Right.
Now, I have theories on why that is,
Mhm.
right? But one of which is, as Christians, we've represented ourselves as so forgiving and so weak.
Yes.
And
Right.
now there's some faiths where if you come at they're gonna come back at your neck.
Right.
Right.
No, and they're not coming to have a nice little conversation. They're going to kill you.
Right. So I that's one theory, right? The other one is that since we believe that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, you know the rest.
Mhm.
The reality is simply that since we're right, if we're right, then of course the enemy will attack what's right.
Right.
He'll let everything else sit there,
Right.
right? Because it's not a threat to him. So my issue is you don't have to believe it, be a believer. That's fine. You don't, and we won't hold you to believer standards, but I do have a problem when in your belief you're disrespectful
Absolutely.
to what my beliefs are.
Absolutely.
Because Christianity is the only thing in this world nowadays that you can disrespect and everybody's okay with it.
And everybody's good with it. And I think it is ridiculous that even some believers get mad at other believers when we address it.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking at some of the things that are taking place. So now, so at the Grammys, I think it's got Sam Smith or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So he got
Mhm.
on, did the
Mhm.
whole devil thing and everything. I don't care.
Mhm.
I don't care about that because it could be that you're worshiping what it is that you believe. So if you want to do that, that's fine. I will have a problem with somebody emulating Christ and putting him in a negative way because it's unnecessary.
Mhm.
See, if you want to go after Satan, if that's who you want to tout or whatever else, okay, do that. But now when you start talking about with God and the God of the Bible, when you
Mhm.
start talking about Christ, and then you expect me not to say anything,
Mhm.
is ridiculous. And I think that believers are not sensitive to the Spirit of God, and not sensitive enough because of what we want.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
might like the artist,
Right.
and then when we like the artist, we begin to make excuses for what it is that they've done.
Mhm.
Where I don't. Well, who should you be defending more, the
Correct.
artist or if you a believer, the Christ that saved you?
Right. So, disclaimer, I'm talking to believers right now.
Okay.
Right. I need to be very, very clear there because we may have people who are watching who are not believers.
Right.
And that's fine. Right.
Cool.
So
Cool.
so listen in to our internal meeting.
Okay.
Right. But my challenge is that believers do not have boundaries anymore.
Mhm.
What I mean by that is I won't name names, but there's a particular artist that I grew up liking.
Mhm.
First time he threw something out there that was a little off. Yeah, but I love his rap, so I'm gonna rationalize that thing. The second time, the third time, and it's culminated, over the years into what I would say is blatant disrespect,
Mhm.
borderline in blasphemy
Okay.
for me.
Okay.
How long do I continue to rationalize that away?
Mhm.
Because I like his music.
Right. Right.
Right. Now, what I also understand, and this is not Bible study, so we're not going to do all of that right now. But if you understand the history of Lucifer, right, and some of his giftings and how he was made, it's no surprise that music becomes a vehicle for such chaos and
Absolutely.
dysfunction.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because that was something that was very near and dear to him.
Yep.
It's who he was. It was the
It
essence
is
of
who
his
he
being.
was, right? And so it makes sense to me that even as Satan, that he would work through music.
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
worked in heaven through music. Why won't he work in the earth through music?
Yep.
Right. So that makes sense to me. And if you all want to talk about that more, put it in the comments and we'll unpack that in a different show.
Mhm.
But my point is, number one, for believers, you have to understand that music is a key spiritual vehicle, and it can be used for good and it can be used for bad.
Right.
Number one. And they both sound good.
Absolutely.
They
Right.
both
Right.
sound
Right.
good.
The music can
You-
be amazing, but your
Right.
intent of behind it is
Right.
wrong.
Right. Your love for the music doesn't make it okay.
Yep.
Right. And so now you get to this place where you can no longer rationalize. You just have to deal with it for what it is. Right.
Right.
And my challenge is whether it's the concert, which, I guess more recently, I haven't been to a secular concert in a while. When I say a while, I'm not talking about decades. I just mean more recently. Right. But I'll be honest with you. It's amazing to me how we can go to a concert. You have the requisite hype people to get you all excited for the main event.
Mm-hmm.
And then the main attraction comes out. And of course, they do several things that I find interesting. One of the things that you will find in most concerts is they want you to say their name.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They want you to call their name out, right? They want you to stand up.
Or
they want you to get your hands up.
Yeah, or they reiterate their
Oh, they
name.
reiterate
My
their
name
name,
is,
right? And so there's a whole lot that we try to get people to do in church for Jesus that people sometimes won't move for.
And would tell you that they feel uncomfortable doing it.
Feel uncomfortable
I'm
doing
like,
it.
wait a
But
minute
you
now.
will spend your rent check to get on the floor of the concert, jumping around and acting crazy. Now I can't let the church off either, because we flipped in the other direction and we trying to make the church look like a concert
right,
venue.
yeah, because we have some individuals that are more into themselves than they are into who the worship should be going to. So I'm not saying the church is without fault.
No, exactly. That's my point.
Definitely some issues that need to be dealt with.
Right.
But as a friend,
Mm-hmm.
we can be friends,
Mm-hmm.
and I can be wrong.
Absolutely.
And so don't say that because somebody is your friend that you begin to excuse their behavior.
Right.
Or if you know somebody in the industry, you excuse their behavior. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Right.
That don't mean that you don't love me, that you don't care about me. But there comes a point where you got to point out what is right and what is wrong.
Right.
And let the person make their decision.
Correct. Right.
So I think we got to be real careful when we start talking about this whole music issue, and everybody has stances that, and y'all, we got to be careful about deflecting on what other people are doing, where they say, well, you can, they talking about this musician or this artist, but they doing this in their lives. Just, we got to get to the point where we just kind of, let's put truth out there, and then let people make a decision.
Right.
But don't ever try to come at somebody who is trying to defend the faith when somebody is purposefully being disrespectful.
Absolutely.
Concerning the God that you serve. Now, if you won't stand up for Christ, then that's a whole nother issue.
It's a whole nother issue. And honestly, when it comes to believers, we're beyond just music.
Yeah.
Right. When I say believers should have boundaries, and that's kind of my tagline for this year, is we've devalued a number of things we say we believe in.
Absolutely.
Right? I'll give you another great example. During the halftime show, Super Bowl, right? It became very apparent very fast that Rihanna's pregnant. right? All right, I get that that's a pretty common scenario nowadays, right?
Right, right.
But I've heard believers say, "Oh, I'm so happy for Rihanna." Well, I'm not sad for Rihanna, but won't she get married? How many babies we gonna make before? I mean, I'm just saying that, like, and listen, if Rihanna's not a believer, if she's not a believer, then I'm not saying she's wrong for operating the way she wants to. What I'm talking about is believers
Endorsing that.
endorsing it.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying trash her, because I'm
Right,
not trashing
right.
her either.
That ain't what you
What
do.
I'm saying though is you don't have to say anything. But how do you read the book? And the book say go left. And when somebody goes right, not only do you not address the right,
Mhm.
you say, I'm so happy for them going right.
Yep. Yep. That means we're not thinking right. We're not thinking that our best life is always whatever God said.
Absolutely.
Always. It don't matter what it is. Our best life is always what God said.
Right.
And to endorse anything else means that we in our feelings,
Mm-hmm.
that we're short-sighted. We maybe not have enough information to understand what the circumstances are.
Right.
Ain't nobody saying not to love them or not to even care for them.
Correct.
Just tell them what's right.
Tell them what's right. And it's not mean to tell people the truth.
Right.
What's mean
right.
is for you to know the truth, believe that someone's making choices that will damn them to hell, and not say anything.
And not saying
How can
anything.
you love me and know I'm going to hell?
Right. That's horrible. It's horrible just because you want to be okay with the person or with society.
Right. I get it. I get sometimes we can be Bible thumpers and we over beating people over the head, and it's not in love, it's more in condemnation and judgment.
Right, right.
It's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
What I'm saying is, and this is why God can't lie, because he loves you too much to let you live a lie.
Absolutely.
Right. And we say that we are Christians, right? And yet here we are endorsing and allowing people to do things that are contradictory to what we say we believe. Now,
Right.
if we don't really believe it, then let's deal with that. Right.
That's a
now,
whole
now if
nother
we don't
thing.
really believe it, then cool.
Hey,
then
wow.
then we just stop lying about being a Christian.
Okay.
Right. And
Right.
and that's okay too.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, if you believe it, then how do you get so comfortable with everything that's against it?
Yeah. I think perfect example for a situation like that is one of my favorite stories. It's growing to be one of my favorite stories. Is a woman caught in adultery.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
She was wrong. She did it. The people accused her.
Mm-hmm.
They actually accused her of the right thing. Their hearts went right. So Jesus checked them.
Check them. Right.
He said, okay, now let me check y'all first, because while y'all might have been right in this situation, the way you going about this is wrong.
Right.
That's where we need to get better in how we go about it.
Correct.
But now they weren't wrong for what she did.
Mm.
Then he did something that was amazing. He said, where your accusers? She said, I have none. She didn't come at him saying, well, it's my business.
Right.
I wouldn't do it. I can do what I want to do. She realized that she was in the presence of truth.
That's right.
And so he's like, okay, yep. Now what I did was wrong. And he makes at the moment one of the most profound statements ever. He said, all right. He said, go
sin
no more. So what he's basically telling her, I want you to get on with your life. I want you to continue to prosper, to do well. Just don't do this anymore.
Right.
He was telling her the truth that what she did was wrong. I'm not going to hold you responsible for it because you were willing to humble yourself.
Right.
And just, all right, let's get on with life.
You hit on something I think is phenomenal. Isn't it interesting how Jesus only offended the religious people, never the sinner? Yet he called out the sin.
Wow.
I mean, if you think about it, and so now let's go back to believers, then maybe we need to study how to do this, right? Because clearly it can be done,
mm-hmm.
right? Well, Jesus is God. Yes, but in that moment, Jesus is man, wrapped in flesh, right here on earth,
mm-hmm.
using the same lips and tongue that we all have.
Yep.
And if we have the Holy Ghost, then we also can tap into the same power and wisdom that he had.
Yes.
So my point simply is telling people the truth and addressing wrong behavior or wrong music or wrong, fill in the blank,
mm-hmm.
doesn't mean you have to be mean and hateful.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean you have to be judgmental. In fact, what Jesus did is he went into the people's environment, right? And became relational with them
Yep.
as he told them.
Yep.
And that's where we make a mistake. We
Yep.
don't want a relationship. We just want to tell you what you're doing right. Wrong.
Right, which is not the correct approach.
It's not the correct approach.
So we have to work some more at this and figure some things out, because I think that there's too much confusion in the body of Christ
That's
about how we go about doing certain things, not considering the person and the circumstances, but we want to get our point across.
That's right.
So that we gotta be real careful about that. So just throwing that out there on this Super Bowl weekend. I thought the Rihanna the only reason I couldn't really appreciate the Super Bowl halftime show is I don't know a whole lot of Rihanna songs.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. And I don't know a lot of her songs, but the imagery was you know, the platforms and it was interesting because they zoomed in on at one point. You could see the platform wobbling, and I'm sitting there like, you 50 feet in the air.
Right.
And so people talking about she not dancing. You wouldn't either on a little square floating 50 feet in the air. And then she prayed it on top of that.
And them other dudes who was dancing, I was like, y'all some bold
souls. Yo, man, listen.
Some bold souls.
Listen. So I'm sure somebody will do a YouTube video breaking down the Illuminati and all the other stuff that's in the halftime show. And I'll watch that and reserve my right to come back and fix this. But from where I sat in that moment, I was like, this is all right with me. Now, I wish she would have brought out, you know, she there's done a number of collabs with stars, some of which were in the building. And so I just assumed, I guess she was going to bring somebody out. But Rihanna said, we're going to do this my way.
Right.
And I ain't mad at her. You know, like I said, I'm not a Rihanna stan by any means, but she's got some good music, a nice catalog, and I thought she pulled out some of her best stuff. So
yeah, the band was tight. The music was tight.
The music was tight for sure.
It was
for
tight.
sure. And shout out to everybody who set that up in 20 minutes or however long it took between the players leaving the field and the halftime show starting. Because that is a lot. You got all of these wires and everything.
Right.
Man,
people dropping out you dropping down from the ceiling of a stadium. That's amazing. Once again, the gifts and talents of men. It's amazing.
Yep.
It's been another edition of The Manual. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Love to get your comments and your thoughts concerning anything we've talked about, or if there's something that you wanted to talk about, put it in there. He's the Professor Alton Woods. I'm Chip Rice, and until next time.